At Dot and Company, we believe that all agencies deserve amazing account managers and that all of those account managers deserve to be supported, encouraged, and loved on. That's why we started CAM Community, a membership only for account managers. And inside, you'll gain access to the exact training we use to train our own client facing account managers, but also access to all of our SOPs, processes, and live trainings on a variety of topics. If you're an account manager, this is the place you've been waiting for. Learn more at dotandcompany.co/CAM community.
Making sure that they're delivering on the promises, making sure that the whole team is innovating processes and improving the business as it goes. And then you go from a place where there's stagnation to a place where everybody's all hands on deck to be growing the company. So it's not just all on the CEO's plate.
Welcome to the Happy Clients Podcast, brought to you by Dot and Company. Whether you're a virtual assistant, an agency owner, or a client-facing account manager, we all deal with clients. Lucky for you, client management is what we do best. Now, let's dig in, chat cam life, and have some fun along the way. Cheers to Happy Clients.
Well, welcome back to the Happy Clients Podcast. Today, I have Mandi Ellefson on the podcast, which I'm really excited about because her business is called Hands Off CEO, which I think everyone listening, if you're an agency owner, that is part of your vision, is how do you get to become this hands-off CEO. So I'm excited to have you on the podcast, Mandi, and to share all of your tips and tricks with our audience. And, if you take one little nugget away, I think this will be a huge win. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Taylor.
Amazing. Well, let's start, Mandi. Give us the Coles Notes version of how you developed the hands-off CEO and how you landed here.
Okay, so, Taylor, you and I were just talking about this before we hit recording. I accidentally started this business, the Hands Off CEO, because my last business, I basically it imploded as I was attempting to take maternity leave with my second daughter. So I had a 4-year-old daughter, and I was just like weeks away from being able to have my second daughter. And just overall, the entire situation was pretty tense. I talk about it in the book, The Hands Off CEO, but I was not able to have a maternity leave from that. I just basically had to shut the whole business down. This was a small agency, but I just couldn't count on my team. Everything that I had tried to make things work, it just was all falling apart without me. After I shut the business down and, brought it back up later, I was trying to figure out what the real problem was. So I went and started reaching out to other entrepreneurs to interview them, researched, to find out what they were running into. And then I just started listening to this and seeing patterns. And I just started helping people because it was just naturally, I'm a problem solver. So I started helping these people. And before I knew it, people were asking me to help them and paying me. And I realized that this was the real business that I felt called to do. And that was 12 years ago. That baby of mine is almost 13 now. And, I listened to the maternity leave that you were able to have because all the systems and processes and the people and everything you had done right. I'm feeling really envious of that. But that's how the Hands Off CEO got started.
Mm-hmm. We're going to talk all about the details, but I think the biggest lesson in that is that even if you're a small agency, your whole business can rely on you. But we also see a lot of bigger agencies where the whole agency still is revolving around them, right? And that's an even bigger problem. I was just chatting with Jason Swank. We were podcasting earlier, and he said the same thing. When he grew his agency, they grew, beat like 100 people. And there was a point, I think he said 20 to 30 people big. He was still the go-to person, right? Even at that size, which is not helpful. So Mandi, let's kind of dig into this framework that you've developed, because I know that a lot of agencies and consultancies use your framework. Walk us through what that looks like and how that was built.
Well, how it was built was just testing. It was testing over the past 12 years of what we've seen work, and also what I had learned worked in some years back with my first agency doing this. So what we have found is that there are 5 different exits that a CEO goes through, the different leadership exits to be able to go from the business basically being completely them up to the business being able to be a passive asset that you can maximize the value for and be able to sell, or just be able to have a cash cow that can run completely without you. Those are 5 total exits. I think that the first exit that we have in common here is account management is the first exit. And I love that that's your business is all based upon it, because that's actually one of the hardest things to remove yourself from, because it's where everything kind of converges. You have client strategy, you have client communication, you have project management, you have client upsells, you have client happiness. Everything is all centered around that role. And one of the things that we've seen that is so difficult about delegating out that role is because it's the combination of all of those things. So you kind of have to separate those different roles out. The two biggest roles being strategy and the account management execution side of it, that has to be separated. And if you don't separate it, then you're looking for a really skilled level person who is doing strategy and account management and project management, all those things, that is not a good use of the skill set within the organization. And not only that, it's not scalable.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We see it every day, all day. And I think most agency owners hang on to it for so long because as you're growing and scaling, your clients are everything. Like they're the ones who are keeping the lights on. And if you're not making sure that your clients are happy, you just have this white knuckle grip on every little thing when it comes to client communication. So it really stunts the growth. So you help agencies kind of get through that. And then what happens? So you get the account management off your plate, and then what do you do?
Right. So the next step is operations management. Now, operations management, a lot of times I hear agency owners saying, what does this person actually do? I don't really know what they would do.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, what they would be doing is all the things that you're not doing because you don't have time to be doing. It's putting in place the structures in your company in order to build integrity, to be able to build agreements that you can manage to, rather than trying to manage people all over the place, and be able to have an actual plan that is executed. So CEOs, they love to have the idea of like, I would love to have someone who is executing my vision, but you need to have a vision that's clearly articulated and it into some kind of very clear, cohesive plan. Otherwise, no one, your team can't execute your vision. And you're going to be in there with your fingers in there and everything, trying to manage all these people because you don't have anything to hold people to account to. And those are some of the structures and some of the pieces that, by the way, we see a lot of agencies in the lower 7 figures that they are stalled at growth, stalled in their profits because they don't have this role in place.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What would you call that role? Is that like a COO?
It depends on the different levels in the company. The COO, that comes more into place when it's like 3 to 7 million. That's kind of where a COO is going to be necessary in an agency. And unfortunately, a lot of companies, they will over title their people. They'll say they're COO, and I've seen like a project manager level skill person being given the title of a COO. And it's dangerous. It's dangerous because then you have other companies coming out and trying to scalp your people and saying, hey, we'll give you this much money to come away. And they have an expectation that they're at a higher level skill than they really are. That's one thing. And it's just, it creates an over-titled situation where they're not actually coming anywhere close to the roles and obligations of it. So we use the term operations leader because there's so many different terms that could be used for, but there's something else that I might add to it that connects in with the account management, if that would be helpful to talk about.
Totally.
The thing is that like a lot of times people are asking, do we hire an account manager or an operations manager first? So first of all, I think, your service just going in and hire and being able to plug in place if it's a good fit for them would be a fast way to be able to get themselves out of that, because right away we see getting out of account management, that's about 20 hours per week. So it's the lowest hanging fruit, easiest way to do it. Now, one of the challenges with getting out of account management though, is that if there is no clear, cohesive, like a product that you're offering to your clients, like if it's different every single time, it's really difficult to get out of account management. So the first thing that has to really get done is to be clear on who are we delivering what promise to? And if you're not clear on that, how do you manage your client engagements to that outcome? That's one of the things that has to be done. So without understanding this, it may be difficult to hire an account management. Have you seen that?
Yep, totally. It's, the agency owners, their fingers are in everything, like you said earlier, and they just make stuff up on the fly. So then how do you train an account manager to do that? You can't. So the successful agencies that we work with, they almost have a productized offer where we can go in and at least semi-productized, we can understand what the scope is, what the KPIs need to look like.
Got it. Yeah. So that's one of the things that we do is we help them be able to, what you would call productize. We help them to be able to do that in a way where it doesn't commoditize the offer, and in a way where they can actually, double or triple the price point on it. Probably outside of the context of this conversation, unless you want to dive into that more, but it's like the foundation that generates the profitability. Because if you get paid twice as much for the same work, then now you have the profit to hire the account managers. You have the profit to be able to hire your operations manager who can actually run the day-to-day of your company. And now you actually have the time and the bandwidth to go and focus on sales.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, so you optimize for hiring a client account manager or an account manager, then you hire the operations person. When you hire that operations person, are you the agency owner reporting into that that operations person who's then flushing everything through the organization and keeping everything running? Is it kind of like an integrator role that you're?
I think there's a lot of similarities to the integrator role. There's some things I disagree with from the perception of the integrator, because there is a lot that goes on in the mindset with integrator, which is abdication. And I've seen some organizations just really struggle because the CEO has abdicated all the power to this integrator who knows best, and who may actually have a very firm way that they're running things. But I've seen clients that have had products that have been released that they didn't even authorize, and it's in a completely different direction of the company. I've seen that these integrator type folks, that the CEO they have like a codependency going on in the relationship, where it allows the CEO to not fully take responsibility. And then what happens is that they come in all sorts of different titles, right? Where they can come in and kind of take over because the CEO is allowing them to. And the payoff the CEO is getting is that they don't have to fully take responsibility for the growth. And then this person basically avoid any kind of new changes to the business that's going to thwart that power they have in the organization. And I say this because we've seen, this is something that we used to have as a problem with some of our growth programs, is that a really strong operator would come in and would basically like undo everything that we were trying to do to help this organization. And now it doesn't happen anymore because we qualify really carefully up front and we nip it in the bud really fast. But I've seen our clients that pay all up front, and so they've invested an enormous amount of money into getting this support. And we're talking months in, this operator talks them into saying, this is not actually helping us. The same people who aren't showing up for anything and getting any support. You just have to be careful, because if you put all of your power into one person, it can ruin your business.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
But most of them are not like that.
Yeah.
That's just the real powerful heavy hitters. More often than not, you're going to have someone who is really effective in the role, but they need a little bit more development. And they're missing some of the systems and processes, because even if they've done a great job at other companies, they've never scaled an agency, which is a whole different animal, as you know. It's like you were even mentioning, that the service has to be more standardized. And those are not skills that they have. They don't know how to do sales. They don't know how to do marketing. And their lens is through operations. So you have to have a more holistic perspective on how it all fits together. And that's one of the things that we do, is we help our operators to be able to see a bigger picture perspective so that they can really understand how the whole business works together. And then they can get the team to all to be working together. They can and they can be overseeing the account managers, making sure that they're delivering on the promises, making sure that the whole team is innovating processes and improving the business as it goes. And then you go from a place where there's stagnation to a place where everyone's all hands on deck to be growing the company. So it's not just all on the CEO's plate.
I love that. I think what our industry has done wrong, I will say, is that we just think that we just need this one operator to come in and then all of our problems go away and we don't have to worry about anything anymore. But that is the opposite of the truth, right? You need somebody who's your right hand. You still need to be working together, your strengths, their strengths coming together to work to growing the business instead of you just running off, right? I mean, there's situations when that might happen, but most times in our industry, that's not the case.
Right. And they need a lot of development. There's two different kinds of development. There's one on the development on the side for, this is how our business runs. This is what our culture is like. And that's what the CEO has to be developing them with. They have to be giving them the time on that and working together to finalize what we call our one-page growth plan. This whole plan that you're running your business upon and what the business looks like 5 years from now. What is the vision? It's how we are operating the entire business. If you don't have that in place, they're not going to be able to actually run the business the way you want them to. So you need to have that part down, the strategic side, and be developing them. And then we're talking about on a weekly basis, at least you're having these touch points where you're actually developing them to be thinking the way that you want them to be thinking. And then that's one side. And the other side, and this is where we help our clients with their operators, is their skill level training that needs to happen. And how most people look at this is they're like sit in a classroom or go do a course or anything. But the problem is that doesn't necessarily translate to the business. So how we do it is that we have like a week by week checklist of and milestones with things that they are installing and implementing into the business, and they're getting the skills as a result of it. And let's imagine they put them all the things in place and they don't work out. The things are all in place in the business. You're in a much better place to be able to bring on the next person. And so your company, it's all of it's built into the company rather than leaving with the person when they go.
That is key because people come and go, right? It's just how it goes. So having those systems in place is crucial. So after we hire the operator, then what do we do?
Right. So the operator is going to be taking on the functions of a lot of things in the business. And at first, they may be doing all sorts of things to backfill the CEO so that they can focus on sales. So that how you make money off this role is you free up the CEO. So 20 hours from the account management, it usually frees up 20 hours per week, another 20 hours for the operations management, because they're going to also oversee a lot of the things, be kind of the catch-all, and then backfill those roles as they're going. So that's exit 1 and exit 2. So exit 3 then is strategy. And this is where I was talking about with account management and the strategy, how the two are oftentimes combined. And you have to split them apart. So you splitting them apart, what that does is it gives the CEO a lot more bandwidth to be able to impact the clients where only they can impact it at the time. But there comes to a point where you can't be the only strategist anymore. Maybe you have other strategists, but you need to get more senior level strategists in place. So doing the earlier work with getting clear on who is the client that we're delivering what promise for, like what is the overall outcome we're delivering for the clients. When you have that in place, it's a lot easier to be able to train up on strategy, because training up on strategy is not about a matter of we need the very best strategists in the world. What it is we need to build processes around delivering this specific outcome, not deliverable. Agencies really are very clear about deliverables. Like, I mean, you guys have the outcome of happy clients. You have a very clear outcome that you're building your company and your deliverables around. But the outcome is keeping clients happy and having a high client retention rate. So I think your company is a very good example of you guys have built your whole DNA around your entire company. I mean, this whole podcast, the Happy Clients podcast, your DNA and your whole company is built around this. And too many agencies, their DNA is built around, we do social media marketing for clients.
Right.
We do SEO. And the thing is that your clients don't really want to buy that. What your clients want the outcome of, like in your case, they want happy clients. They want an increased retention rate. They want higher profits per client. So give them that. And so we want to be building our processes in the strategic side around engineering the outcome that our clients actually want. And so how we do that is that we build what we call apprenticeship programs. So there's 80% of the service that's repeatable and that's very process-based. And it's going to be pretty similar client to client. And it can be up to 90%. Some of our clients actually, Ricardo, one of our clients, he mentioned, he shared on a podcast, he has $1 million offer that is 90% process-based. I mean, so give like really high level offer, and 10% is customized, but 10% is customized based upon a framework. So you can put your very best people on that top 10 to 20%. And, and imagine though, if you're able to focus that much more attention on what's unique and special about that particular client, what is the nuance for how we make this work for this particular example? That's where we see clients be able to generate much better results. And that's the way they can command twice as much for the same work.
I love that. I love that idea of, what do we call it? Apprenticeship?
Apprenticeship programs.
Where did that name come from?
I was just recognizing what actually, there's a gap in the market for trained up people. And a lot of companies just like, hey, we can't find any good talent. Just like, yes, but you have to build the talent internally. You can't just hire all top level strategists and expect them to be able to fit in every single role in the company. It's like at a doctor's office. You don't go in there and the physician's not like checking you in. They're not taking your weight and all your vitals. Like they're coming in after all of that's done. You know, after that, like 90% of it's all done, they come in and they're able to look at all of the reports and everything and be able to give you a diagnosis. And in a very short amount of time, probably too short, I think we would all agree, and actually help you solve the problem, but it doesn't require the doctor to do all of that. But for some reason, a lot of agencies, we're not thinking in that same way to be able to optimize the highest skill people. Instead, we're looking at it and saying, like, I need to find a doctor who can do everything. And recognizing the doctors don't want to do everything. Your best strategists, they don't want to do everything. They want to be able to do their highest, best work. And these are also the same people that you can use to build the apprenticeship programs, to be able to nurture the people underneath them, to be able to build talent internally.
I love that idea. And that's such a great analogy. I was thinking about that at the dentist the other day. You know, my dentist is doing the art, but they have the assistants, they have the receptionists, they have all these people who are helping you, right? It's like, you can't do it all, nor should you. I'm paying for your work, not all the other stuff that you have to do. So that's such a great analogy. And I think all of us agency owners get caught in this gunky stuff that we end up having to do. But if you can leverage the highest payoff activities that you're doing, you can become the hands-off CEO someday.
Well, and building on your analogy too, how effective would it be to go in to a dental office and be greeted by the dentist? First of all, you're probably not going to think this is a very established place if you're meeting with a dentist right away. And then have the dentist be sitting there going in and cleaning your teeth for you, doing the fluoride, doing all the x-rays and everything. Thing is, they're probably going to be stressed out because they're doing all sorts of other things. They're not going to do a very good job because, you know, the receptionist is nice and sweet. And then the person there cleaning your teeth, they're like sitting here talking and asking about all your trips and everything as your mouth is like full of all their equipment.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying by this is that the dentist can't actually do a good job at those things. And not just because they don't have the time or the bandwidth, but because they will hate their job doing all of those things. And, you know, that person sitting there in the chair, they feel it. They would feel it.
Totally. Exactly. And if only we took our own advice and implemented that, which you can by leveraging people like Mandi and your expertise, us, you know, finding experts in different areas so that you can just focus on the most important thing. So Mandi, is there any other pieces to this framework that we should know about?
Yeah, so we just talked about the third exit, which is exiting out of strategy, having the apprenticeship program. All of these things build on itself. The first thing being the offer that I mentioned, the irresistible offer. It all builds on itself. And then is the part that everyone wants to get to first. It's exiting out of sales and sales strategy. Now, earlier you may have assistants to be able to help you with marketing, with business development. So you may be getting out of these pieces as you're going through it. But ultimately, getting out of sales strategy and sales execution for higher level sales, lower level sales, you could get out of this earlier. But, you know, if you're talking about an agency that has sales that are, you know, $40,000 to $400,000 in sales for their engagements, then you're going to be looking at, this is a higher skilled role to remove yourself from. But building upon the apprenticeship program, now you can be able to take an effective salesperson and then build them into an effective sales strategist, because that's essentially what your prospects are looking for when you're selling as the CEO, because they know that you know the product, you know the process, you know how to be able to generate results. So that's what they're looking for. So that's how you train up the person to be able to actually close sales and be able to know what they're talking about. And then if you do that, then you can actually have really good people in place that may actually be able to help with some other parts of the service too. And it allows you to be able to feel really good about delegating out sales and knowing that clients are going to have a great experience from it.
I love that. So after you've delegated sales, is that when you see most agency owners think about exiting, maybe selling their agency? Is it Is
What's
that the
funny-
fifth?
That's a great question, right, Taylor, because actually when we see people think about exiting their company is actually before that. It's when they're stuck in like the exit 1 and exit 2 portion of it.
Right.
When they're stuck in the day-to-day on all these different things and their life just sucks. That's the time when they're really thinking about it. And when those little email blasts that come in, we'd like to buy your agency. They're like, yes, someone wants to buy my agency,
Please.
when they're like, it's being sent to 1,000 other people, right? But
Yeah.
if they go and buy your agency in the way that it is right now, they're not going to give you much for it, if at all. And because it's not investable yet. A lot of times when they're further along, when you're at a company that runs without you and can grow without you, because that's what allows you, if your company is running and growing without you, you can leave for weeks or months at a time. Is that really a company that you're very excited about selling that just keeps on generating income for you? Maybe not.
Exactly.
Or maybe this is the time where you're really like pouring in resources and knowing that we're going to really be building up our sales engine here because, we want to scale this to, $50 million in gross sales a year, or we want to be able to get to a 10 million EBITDA. So it gives you a lot of options.
Right.
But really getting out of the first 2 exits, what we find is that if you're spending over half the time working on your business, you're out of account management, you're out of operations management, the company can run without you, you have a lot more time to focus on growth. It's so much easier to generate more growth. And, some of the hesitation you may have had before with, what, I'd like to make more sales, but if I do, the team's not going to be able to handle it. I'm going to be pulled in. Like, this is kind of the unconscious conversation that goes on behind in the back of their mind, for which is why they're not actually really pushing it more with sales, because if they do that, then what's going to happen to their life? Well, they're probably gonna have to work more and more hours.
I see so many agency owners making that same mistake. They're still stuck in that first pillar, the account management, and then they just don't sell because it's all on them. Who would want that?
It's exactly the case. And they don't realize that what's really holding them back is they're stuck doing all these things that someone else can actually do much better.
Right? Exactly. And who loves it?
Well, and I love the service that you guys have. I think that it's such a great idea, and it's not an easy thing that what you guys have done. Like,
No.
I know what it takes to do what you've been able to do, and you guys have gotten really clear about who's a good fit, who's not a good fit, and what they need to have in place. You've already described some of these things that they need to have in place for it to be a good fit. So that's how you guys can do such great work and why you have such a good reputation. And this is a really good lesson for other agency owners to listen into, because your focus has been able to allow you to be able to have a really good name in the market. And I know that, Taylor, you're invited to go speak in all these different places for agency owners as a top expert. And you've gotten there because you've chosen to focus. You've chosen to focus on, this is the outcome that we're creating for this type of client. So that's really how you create a company that is exceptional, and that you scale a company that's exceptional. And it makes everything else easier in the company.
That's right. Exactly. Well, Mandi, this was super cool. I love your framework. And I know you're also well known in the industry for helping agencies remove themselves. Tell us how agencies can work with you and your team to maybe leverage some of these things and climb this mountain a lot faster with support from you and your team.
Well, you can just reach out to me on LinkedIn if you want to have more of a conversation about this. You spell my name Mandi, Mandiellefson, Mandi Ellefson. You can go to our website, handsoffceo.com, and you can download a checklist right there, right at the top of our website there. And this checklist will give you what I've already outlined with these 5 different exits. We talked about the first 4 exits, not the 5th exit. It talks about the different exits. It's a summary of my book, The Hands-Off CEO, as well. So you can actually go there and check out the scalability checklist. And it'll give you the exact list of things that you need to do to be able to exit yourself out of the day-to-day, starting with the account management, like Taylor's expertise here. And ultimately, how to get the company running and growing without you.
I love it. This is the dream. This is the dream. And Mandi has it all spelled out. So I'm definitely going to go grab that checklist, and we'll link it below for anybody listening. And if you are at a point where you're growing and scaling and you feel that you're holding yourself back, well, maybe that's the time that you reach out to Mandi and her team, get their expertise And I guarantee you will scale faster, because all of these things that Mandi has shown and all these different pillars and building on her framework, it took us 5 years. And if I would have had this framework 5 years ago, well, the business would be a lot further along. So I wish I had Mandi in my corner a long time ago. But thank you, Mandi, for coming on the show. This was such a great conversation.
Thanks so much for having me, Taylor. It was a real pleasure.
Cheers to happy clients.